Welcome to the timeless forgotten mysteries. The Hawk of Saudi Arabia, King Faisal. Shah Faisal, the one Muslim monarch whose single command once brought the superpower America to its knees. He stood alone as a voice for Palestine and dared to take on the whole world for its sake. Yet, when Faisal rose to become the foremost leader of the Muslim world, he was shot dead by his own nephew, a prince from the Saudi royal family. Where did the Saudi dynasty's power come from? To answer that, we must go far back, to Muhammad bin Saud and even earlier. About 1,400 years ago, during the Prophet's lifetime, much of the Arabian Peninsula was united. But after the Prophet passed away, many tribes rebelled against the first caliph, Abu Bakr. Some even claimed prophethood, the most notorious of them being Musaylama al-Kadhab. Abu Bakr sent his best general, Khalid ibn al-Walid, to bring the tribes back into the fold. Khalid swept the region and finally defeated Musaylama in the decisive Battle of Yamama. The Banu Hanifa tribe was crushed so thoroughly they couldn't recover for 1,000 years. A millennium later, a new ruler rose from that same tribe. Muhammad bin Saud became the first king of the Saudi line. When Saud's dynasty gained ground, the dominant Muslim power was the Ottoman Empire, where many rulers followed Sufism. In Mecca's Grand Mosque, 4 different imams would lead the same prayer but none would follow another's lead, a sign of religious fragmentation. A scholar named Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab opposed this system. His teachings made him unpopular and he was expelled from his city. He had knowledge but needed political power to spread his ideas. That power came when he allied with the first Saudi ruler. Together, the Wahhabi reformers and the House of Saud created a strong authority in Najd. Still, they were nothing compared to the Ottoman Empire, until 2 centuries later, when the Ottomans were dying in World War I. Britain and the Ottoman Empire clashed in World War I. The British knew they couldn't defeat the Ottomans without Arab support. So they courted Arab leaders and found an ally in Sharif Hussein of Mecca, a scholar of the Prophet's lineage. Britain promised Hussein that if he rose against the Ottomans, the caliphate would be returned to Arab hands instead of the Turks. The Arabs rose up, helped topple Ottoman power, and the caliphate's enormous territories shrank dramatically. But after victory, the British reneged. They demanded Palestine be handed to the Jews in return for granting Arab kingship, an offer Hussein refused. Britain withdrew support and left Arab leadership fractured. In this vacuum, a young Arab leader seized the opportunity, Abdulaziz al-Saud. Abdulaziz was the opposite of Hussein, unconcerned with preserving the caliphate or defending Palestine. He wanted a kingdom for himself. The British found him convenient and gave him full backing. Abdulaziz marched from Riyadh, conquered Mecca and Medina with his forces, aided, of course, by British support, and the ulama of Mecca placed the holy keys of the Kaaba into his hand. With the conquest of the Hijaz, Abdulaziz's rule spread, and the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia was born. He was its first king. King Abdulaziz divided his kingdom into 2 main regions, Najd, with the capital Riyadh, governed by his eldest son Saud, and the Hijaz, containing Mecca and Medina, governed by his other son, Prince Faisal. Soon after, oil was discovered in nearby Bahrain, and Abdulaziz began searching for oil in his own land with British help. For 6 years they found nothing, until, as the story goes, a poor desert man led British geologists to a site near Dammam, where oil gushed forth. Saudi Arabia became home to one of the world's largest oil reserves. Fortune smiled on Abdulaziz again. World War II began, and oil became indispensable. Saudi oil exports shot up and the kingdom's coffers exploded. Abdulaziz went from a poor ruler to one of the world's most powerful kings. He sided with the United States against Hitler. But after the war, his British allies helped establish Israel. When Israel declared independence, many Arab states attacked, but King Abdulaziz remained silent. He did not intervene substantially. Only about 800 Saudi volunteers fought. The one Saudi who loudly opposed Israel was Prince Faisal, who stood at the UN and declared he would not recognize Israel. As Abdulaziz neared death, he told his confidants he wished Faisal, not Saud, would succeed him. He even swore Faisal to loyalty toward Saud. Still, when Abdulaziz died, his eldest son Saud became king. Why had Abdulaziz favored Faisal? Because Saud was notorious, a playboy with 4 wives, more than 100 servants in his harem, 115 children, and a luxury lifestyle spread across 24 palaces. He openly drank alcohol and, upon becoming king, began draining the state treasury, showering princes with millions, ordering billion-dollar palaces, and plunging the country into massive debt. Only one man stood up to Saud's extravagance, his brother, Crown Prince Faisal. But Saud ignored him. Faisal resigned as prime minister in protest and left Saudi Arabia. In his absence, the kingdom slid toward bankruptcy. With oil production expanding worldwide, prices fell and Saudi revenues crashed. Saud's debts became unpayable and the country teetered on collapse. Desperate, the royal family and the Wahhabi leaders begged Faisal to return and take the throne. Faisal refused to depose his brother. He had once sworn loyalty. Instead, he accepted the role of prime minister with full powers to save the state. Immediately, Faisal cut the prince's lavish allowances, seized their palaces to convert into government offices, and enacted sweeping reforms. Most dramatically, he abolished slavery in Saudi Arabia. He paid owners $2,000 per slave to free them, emancipating thousands overnight. To stabilize the economy, Faisal borrowed from Saudi Arabia's wealthiest man at the time, Mohammed bin Laden. Faisal invited Islamic scholars from across the Muslim world to educate Saudi children, and among the students in those schools was Osama bin Laden. Faisal's reforms restored Saudi strength, but despite Faisal holding real power, Saud remained the nominal king. Saud returned from exile and, during a pilgrimage, realized the people no longer respected him. He grew increasingly resentful and, with his libertine sons, plotted to remove Faisal. Saud and his sons funded agitation against Faisal. When Faisal read a threatening letter from Saud ordering him to appoint Saud's two sons to top ministerial posts or be arrested, Faisal handed it back, boldness that publicly humiliated Saud. Saud ordered his royal guard to arrest Faisal. But when the guard surrounded Faisal's palace and he stepped out, the soldiers saluted him by mistake, a humiliating demonstration that Faisal had the real loyalty of the military and the nation. Eventually, soldiers rallied to Faisal and pressurized Saud to abdicate. The ulama and the Wahhabi leaders chose Faisal. He was the rightful leader of both the Saud and Wahhabi lines. His father was Abdulaziz al-Saud and his mother was from Muhammad ibn Abd al-Wahhab's family. United, the tribes supported him. Saud stepped down and Faisal became king. Faisal's first speech was humble. "Consider me your friend and servant, not your monarch." But his reforms soon angered conservatives. He opened schools for girls and universities and launched Saudi Arabia's first television channel with female anchors. The religious establishment could not tolerate these changes. When a university professor published a simple article explaining that the earth revolves around the sun, not the other way around, the Grand Mufti, Sheikh Ibn Baz, publicly denounced it, asserting the opposite. The world laughed, and Faisal ordered newspapers carrying the professor's article to be seized and burned, which only increased clerical opposition. The religious establishment was so strict that they even once declared vanilla ice cream forbidden. The clash escalated when Faisal's TV station was attacked by a prince who opened fire on police officers. A police officer shot back and killed the prince. His father demanded the officer's head from Faisal. Faisal refused, insisting the law apply equally to all, a prince or an ordinary citizen. That police killing would later be the pretext used by another prince to assassinate Faisal. Remember that episode. Abroad, Faisal rose as an international leader, the dignified ruler of the Middle East. When regional wars broke out, Faisal supported causes he believed in. During India and Pakistan's conflict, he strongly backed Pakistan, supplying cheap oil and forging a close relationship. In the Arab-Israeli conflicts, Faisal took a hard line. Whereas his father had stayed silent, Faisal sent 20,000 troops and provided significant aid to Arab states. Yet despite his efforts, the Arab states suffered a crushing defeat. Israel expanded dramatically. The humiliation left Faisal grief-stricken. Some say he could rarely be seen smiling afterward. Faisal then used his immense wealth to help battered Muslim countries rebuild. He bought planes, tanks, and warships to strengthen Saudi Arabia's military and pursue the idea of eventual retaliation against Israel. Then, a shocking act in Jerusalem ignited the Muslim world. A Christian arsonist set fire to the pulpit of the Al-Aqsa Mosque, the very pulpit Saladin had placed there 800 years earlier. The shrine was damaged, and the Israeli court treated the arsonist as a lunatic, not a criminal. Muslims worldwide saw double standards. When a Muslim commits an atrocity, the world calls him a terrorist. When a non-Muslim does the same, he is labeled mentally ill. Outrage spread. All eyes turned to King Faisal as the leader of the Muslim world. He convened Muslim leaders and helped create the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, OIC, rallying Muslim nations against Israel. When the 1973 war erupted, a coordinated surprise attack on Israel during Yom Kippur, Arab forces initially advanced, and the tide turned in several fronts. King Faisal sent messages of pride and encouragement to the Arab fighters. It seemed the balance could shift within days. But Israel appealed to its ally, the United States. Washington poured military aid and billions of dollars into Israel. The US supplied fighter jets, tanks, and weapons that helped Israel push back. Furious at America's intervention, Faisal called his oil minister and made a dramatic decision. He ordered a halt to oil exports to the United States. That night he decreed that no oil intended for America would flow out of Saudi fields. The Arab oil producers responded in solidarity, and the embargo began. America bought nearly 80% of its oil from Arab countries at that time. The embargo shattered the US economy and sent shockwaves around the world. Gasoline lines, blackouts, and rationing followed. Even in prosperous nations, people returned to candles and wood fires. 500,000 Americans lost their jobs. That Christmas, the year of the embargo, the usual dazzling lights were absent across the US. Cities plunged into darkness. Japan also suffered so greatly it compared the crisis to the devastation of the atomic bomb. As America's crisis deepened, secret meetings considered military options, even an invasion to depose Faisal. Faisal responded defiantly. He warned that if the West attacked, Arab oil fields would be set ablaze, a threat that could destroy the attackers' economies. He famously said he would not sit in an office and wage war by telephone. He would lead from the front. He declared he would rather die for the Palestinian cause than watch its sacrifice remain unavenged. Faisal's use of oil as a political weapon showed the world the true power of the Arab states. The embargo forced Western countries to the negotiating table, and pressure mounted to change policies toward Israel. Eventually, when his conditions were met, Faisal lifted the embargo, but the era had changed. Under Faisal's leadership, Saudi Arabia's economy exploded, from $2 billion to $50 billion in a short span. Property values doubled weekly. Cranes and construction rose so fast that people stopped shipping cement by boat and started flying it in by helicopter. Saudi citizens became among the world's wealthiest. At the peak of his power, Faisal made a speech that would be his last public speech. He urged Muslims, "What are we waiting for? Where is the dignity of the world? O my brothers, Al-Aqsa calls you. It cries out for your help. What are you afraid of? Death. There is no better death than dying in the path of God. If Palestine is not freed in my lifetime, may God not keep me alive even for a moment. O God, grant me martyrdom." Months later, while attending a majlis, an assassin shot Faisal. He was rushed to the hospital. His final words are said to have been a plea, "I forgive my killer." News of his assassination spread like wildfire. The world mourned. Leaders poured into Riyadh to attend his funeral. While his body was taken to burial, crowds surrounded the hearse, crying and chanting. Scenes broadcast on the very television station Faisal had established. Anchors sobbed on air, "The father of the Muslim Ummah has died." The assassin was none other than the son of a prince, Faisal's own nephew. When questioned, the killer offered a bizarre rationale. 10 years earlier, his brother had attacked Faisal's TV station and was shot dead by police. He claimed Faisal should have punished the officer. Instead, Faisal had forgiven him. 10 years later, the nephew, who had lived a debauched life in America, frequenting clubs and drugs, even being arrested once, returned to Saudi Arabia and shot Faisal to avenge his brother. Many suspected deeper motives. America and Israel greatly benefited from Faisal's death, and some believe his oil embargo and defiance made powerful enemies. After Faisal's assassination, the royal family quickly appointed King Khalid bin Abdulaziz. Khalid ordered that the assassin's head be displayed publicly, a harsh reprisals intended to close that chapter. But Faisal's death marked a turning point. No subsequent Saudi king has stood up to America with the same courage or global impact. The world that Faisal shaped, a Saudi Arabia transformed into a global energy powerhouse and a leader for Muslim unity, shifted direction after his martyrdom.